All right, parents, here we go again. It's the Ask Dr. Tony episode. This is the Experience Miracles podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Tony Ebel, an expert in pediatrics, neurodevelopmental disorders, and drug-free, nervous system-focused healthcare. On this weekly episode, I'll be addressing the top questions on every parent's mind. If there's one thing we love and welcome, it's parents who never stop learning, asking the hard questions, and advocating for your kiddos like none other. So get ready for some real talk, real-life clinical and parenting experience, and real easy to understand answers that will help your family take action and get to that next level of health and healing. You ask, I answer. Let's dive into today's episode. So the question for today's Ask Dr. Tony episode is, I was asked in this way, hey, are there anything you and your family, I love that she asked me that, anything you and your family are doing next year differently or anything new you're doing to build more health and build more resilience for your family? And there absolutely is. So what I did is I put together, I didn't want to give you 37 things. I didn't want to give you a long list of things that you won't make it to January 30th on. I wanted to give you my list of things that will move the needle the most for your family. So I promise you this, these 3-year New Year's resolutions for your family, I wrote in the title to radically transform your health because they will. This is not everybody else's list. In fact, especially when you see my number one, and I'm going to come out and just punch it right in its soul and really push hard with strategy and resolution number one, I promise you that won't make pretty much anybody else's list, okay? But when I watch myself, my own family, and then the thousands of families we've been able to take care of through our practice, the number one strategy I'm going to go nuts on here today and go deep into is the one that changes things the most, because it either moves you away from the source of stress and sickness and fear and anxiety and chronic disease. And the physics of this are moving away from something that creates more fear, more stress, more sickness for your family is the same thing as moving towards something that builds health and builds wellness, okay, and builds resilience. Because what I'm going to do with this list is I'm going to fill in the blanks, meaning if we're going to get away from something that maybe does not build health and doesn't promote health for our family, the most exciting thing about that, and probably the principle within the lesson within this episode, is what do I replace that with? How do I fill that void with something that does create health and happiness and fulfillment for my family? So let's go. All right. Backstory to these 3 resolutions. When I was in undergrad, I actually took a job. So picture Dr. Tony. First off, I know if you watch any of our videos, I have a hat on today. I've got my serve hat on today from Froning Farms, but there's no hair, okay? I've got my bald, pointy head, as my kids always like to remind me. My youngest, Tiny, is always confused why I have hair, a beard and have hair there, but not on my head. She's like, why do you make that choice? And I feel like I always have good answers and explanations for you guys about like health and science stuff. I don't really have a good explanation for that, but I kind of do. Back in college, and for most of my life, I had a huge curly fro. So if you just picture, this is Dr. Tony, sophomore year of college, pre-chiropractic, pre-wellness, pre-making a significant shift in my lifestyle at all. I knew nothing, not a single thing that I know now. So this is 20 years ago. So this is chubby, curly-haired Dr. Tony, and he finds himself into a chiropractic office. Now, I'm going to skip a few of the key chiropractic stories to set up this New Year's resolution and this advice, because in that office where I worked, my first chiropractic mentor, Dr. Rick Elbert, patients would always ask him. So we're in the Ask Dr. Tony show, and I worked at the front desk. I think then this is a little bit before I started getting fully adjusted in my nervous system. That's where I started to get adjusted because I was under care there while also working there and as a college student and learning chiropractic from the inside out that way. But they moved me from the front desk to chiropractic tech, which is where I learned to take x-rays and run the scans, which is why we get so nuts about that. So I just got to be with Dr. Cody. Dr. Cody is my other mentor. Dr. Elbert is my first undergrad mentor. And I got to be by Dr. Elbert while he would take care of patients. I was just with him when I was there. So I got to not only watch him, but I got to listen to him. And what chiropractors, the best doctors in the world, they don't just provide the best adjustments. That's the thing, right? That's the product or the service, whatever the word would be for that, like the tangible item that happens inside that care. Whereas obviously in a hospital, maybe it's surgeries. And then in the medical world, their tangible product is drugs, right? Medications. But the real value add when you get doctors that transform your lives is the education. It's the empowerment. It's the conversation, right? And I would hear patients ask Dr. Cody Say, dang it. Dr. Albert, all the time, what else can I do to get better? What else can I do? Sometimes they were going through a health challenge or a condition, so they were asking the question in the frame of like, hey, what else can I do to help myself heal from X, Y, and Z? That is basically the same question, but in that frame. Or often they were wellness patients, and they would just be in conversation with them while they were getting their adjusted and saying, hey, what else can I do, for myself and my family to be healthy? Dr. Albert, over and over again, I bet I heard this hundreds of times during my 3 years of working at this incredible office with this incredible chiropractor. And he would say, I want you to do these 3 things. Number 1, prioritize rest. Okay. Now, this is not my list, by the way. Number 3 on Dr. Albert's list is going to be my number 1. When you get to this, you're going to see like it would always feel like it came out of right field for his patients. It's going to feel like it's going to come out of right field when I deliver it, but dang, it's the one that makes the most change. So number 1 for Dr. Albert was rest. Your body's going through something right now, and even just well-being. We now know that sleep, just rest, is the one thing this world probably needs more than anything else. So he would always hit that one first. Number 2, he would say, just go walk. This is way back. This is 20 years ago. Dr. Albert's the coolest old school rock star chiropractor. So he's been in practice long before Pilates and yoga and stretch labs and all these kind of like cold plunges and infrared saunas, So we have this advanced understanding of fitness and recovery. But you know what? Just like sleeping, walking is worth its weight in gold. So patients he would just say, go move. Don't worry about going to the gym. Don't worry about going to do fancy stuff. Just go walk. And then number 3, which is going to be my number 1 on list of 3 strategies I strongly recommend that will radically transform the health of your family in 2025 and beyond. He would say, no matter what, under all circumstances, absolutely, positively, unless it's a true blue actual emergency. So he would very much belabor the point on number 3 here. He would say, avoid your medical doctor and the medical system at all costs. Because the more often you go there, the more medications you get, the more side effects you get, the more health struggle you get, the more conditions you get, and the more hooked into the system you get. So Dr. Albert's third piece of advice, which I could always tell, I was always in the room with him, and it would feel like patients kind of got a little shock and awe by that. Because the first 2, pretty standard wellness advice, right? Sleep more, walk more, rest more, move more. And then he gave them a third tip, which was more of a what not to do. And I always saw that open up these incredible conversations. And all the way back then when I was working as a chiropractic assistant and technician, I could tell which patients really bought in, that's the word I'm going to use, to this health, nervous system wellness, just into this different paradigm, into this different healthcare system. See, you may think that everybody's kind of under the same umbrella. Oh, chiropractors, medical doctors, and everything in between. That's all healthcare. But there's such a different perspective and philosophy. And it's the basis, it's the foundational perspective, philosophy, and paradigm by which a doctor is trained, and by with the system that they are either stuck in, most medical doctors, or free from, us, people who are in the natural nervous system focused chiropractic world, that dictates the recommendations and the care or the treatment that they're going to provide. And so what I want to start off with on my list is the number 1 thing you can absolutely positively do to radically transform your family's health is do an entire 180 with the priority or kind of the batting order or pecking order of which doctor, which type of practitioner you call first and you trust most with your family's healthcare. Now, let me pull on a couple of threads here to really make sure that this point is not just superficially put, but is very strategically put. Remember, the content we want to make, we don't want to just surface level say it and then you're kind of confused by it and you don't know how to apply it. I really like to get into the weeds and give you the granular details on this so it makes applicable, actionable sense for your family. The key word in my sentence, as I look at my notes here with my number 1, reorder which doctor you call, you go see first. The key word there is first. There will absolutely positively be true medical emergencies. Unfortunately, in our family's lives, okay? There will be, I think it was 3 years ago, right around this time on Christmas break, our little Miss Elena, our kiddo out here sledding. I can literally see the sledding hill outside the window I'm doing this video from and podcast from. The truth is, sliding down the hill, all icy, broken foot. Where do we go for a broken foot? Do we go to the adjusting table and I just adjust the fracture back together? No. Do we take a supplement or a homeopathic or an herbal remedy and bam, that does the job? No. In this case, we needed to go get an x-ray. Then we needed to find out if there was a ligament tear, so we needed to get an MRI. And thankfully, there wasn't a ligament tear, so we didn't need to get surgery, but we did need to get a boot, and we did need to track it with an urgent care orthopedic medical intervention. There will be crisis, but most aren't. So the first thing I want to tell you about why it's so, the first thing here is so simple yet so transformative. It can be complex and simple at the same time. The reason most of us call the pediatrician first is not because we actually want to or expect them to be experts in health and wellness and guidance. We've just been told to. We've just defaulted to. The system is just set up that way. And it's set up that way because the more often we need them, the more they can get their hooks in us, the more they can get their paradigm, their fear, their anxiety, their medications into us. Not everything is an emergency. Most isn't. Most things, once you really understand how health and healing and recovery work, you would absolutely want to save medications, antibiotics, corticosteroids, inhalers, let me go actually in order, over-the-counter medications and prescription medications. Medications? Yes, I think I almost said medications in there. The truth is we want to save those as a last resort. Why would we go to a chemically created in a lab substance full of side effects that doesn't even bat 100%, not even close, as our first intervention? Again, because the system told us to, because we grew up and defaulted our way there. So the truth is, the first call, if your first call is into the conventional pediatrician and medical system, you're going to be met with fear. You're going to be met with anxiety. The medical system works first on CYA, cover their ASS. That is an entire system built upon fear and anxiety and how quick can we give you a diagnosis and how quick can we give you a medication. Now I'm generalizing it. I am very importantly using the word conventional and traditional, but I'm also talking about the truth. We all know that the conventional pediatrician, the conventional hotline to their office, it's going to go with fear. Oh, there's a fever, bring it down. Oh, there's an infection, here's your antibiotic. Oh, they can't breathe well, here's your cough suppressant, here's your corticosteroid, here's your nebulizer, here's your inhaler. Here's your things that will short circuit the body's own natural healing mechanisms and maybe symptomatically make your child feel better for a little bit while absolutely positively contributing to the onset of autoimmune conditions, ADHD, autism, and chronic health issues. We know that. We know that about antibiotics. We know that about early interventions and medications. We know that about fear and anxiety. All of those things contribute to the perfect storm and lead to more health issues. The other things, you can look at this, why it's important to shift to calling a different kind of doctor first is, don't you want a doctor who's going to be a partner with you? Don't you want a doctor who's going to empower you? Actually take the time to listen to your concerns, not dismiss them, not punt them, go, oh, did you Google that? Not roll in on a high horse an hour and a half late, have no time to actually conversate with you. And by the way, let's pretend that in a conventional system, they actually take the time to sit down knee to knee and have a conversation with you. Do you know that the conventional pediatrician and medical doctors have no training at all on nervous system regulation, stress management, nutrition, wellness, natural lifestyle? So even if you got a doctor in that conventional world to have a conversation with you, you're not going to get much out of it because they have no training. They have no experience. It's not what they're experts in. And it probably sounds like for the last 10 minutes that I'm just throwing shade, right? That I'm just throwing all sorts of darts and arrows over at the conventional medical system. I'm not, because I'm useless when it comes to sepsis and real infections and real nasty broken bones. We need different kinds of doctors on our team. We don't need a singular doctor or provider on our team. If I can change anything here for your family, it's probably going to go in this order. You need to add different kinds of holistic, drug-free, root cause, nervous system focused doctors on your team. That might be missing. And then once you have a team of providers, now the most important thing that I can help provide radical transformation for your family's health is, who do you call first? Who do you trust first? All right. And the truth is, who do you want to work with first? Do you want to work with a doctor who you know has tons of education on nervous system regulation, tons of education on lifestyle intervention and wellness and nutrition and all the other natural, supportive, drug-free, root cause targeted interventions and care options you could deploy for your kiddos? So when you make this call, and usually we're in crisis, right? Usually we're either just following the system, we're in crisis. It's worth me going this slow through this episode to say, let's think about what we're going to get out of this doctor or this system versus this one. And now, once we really understand how these doctors, how these systems operate and what we're going to get from them and what we're not, we can say, okay, I know exactly which one to call and which one to use when. And that's the real message I want your family to be able to change with in 2025. The other reason that I probably wouldn't suggest making the first call for your health, your wellness, or even getting over 99% of health challenges, especially chronic disease. The medical system is acute, real crisis intervention. That's their expertise. Rebuilding health, addressing chronic disease, they got no clue, right? No medication is going to help get to the root cause. And they don't provide any personalized care. The number one complaint, and there's a long list of complaints that parents will share with us about their previous experiences with the conventional medical system, pediatricians, specialists, and so forth, kind of systemizing the whole thing here is everything's cookie cutter. My child's just a number. My child's just their height and their weight and some scores on a scale. And that's not what parents want from their doctor. You deserve a doctor who is going to focus on the root cause. You deserve a doctor who's going to take the time to listen to your concerns. You deserve a doctor who's going to partner up with you in getting your kiddo healthy and keeping them there. You deserve a doctor who is empowering and positive and empathetic and compassionate and relatable and educated and experienced, okay? And there are doctors who have all of those attributes, okay? And they take care of your kiddo and your family in a ridiculously personalized, customized way. That is what the best doctors do, and that's the kind of doctor you want to call first, trust first, and put first on the batting order or the pecking order of your family's healthcare priorities, all right? And the final thing I'll say about this, and goodness gracious, this is a whole episode, and I know it. I believe in prayers to God who called and crafted me to this mission, and I also, thankfully, over the last 20 years, have just been able to get some incredible, unbelievable connections, and none of them are solidified, but it's coming. We're going for it. It's just kind of the way I'm wired. Eventually, here in the not too distant future, you will hear from, on this podcast, rock stars like RFK Jr., like Callie or Casey Means, like these folks who have really exposed the system. See, the truth is the medical system, the conventional pediatrician, which is kind of that first stop, right? That's the first place they get you hooked in, even as a kiddo. Like, we're just grown up with this kind of forced upon us, literally. It's all fear, it's all anxiety. And for the longest time, and they're not the ones letting it loose, but it's thankful this information age and the world has shifted completely. But once you understand that there's no transparency, there's no actual informed choice, and there is 1,000 layers of conflict of interest within the pediatrician system, that entire system. So I'm going to put a bow on this one as to why I wouldn't call them first and make a different move with the doctor you trust foundationally for your family's healthcare going forward. The reason being is when you really look behind the curtain and you look at that system, it is entirely based upon sickness and illness and chronic disease. More sick kids, more sick families, more profits. That's just how it's built. There is many massive industries, from food to pharma to testing, to labs, to hospitals, to even your brick and mortar family practice. Have you noticed? I can give you kind of a real, holy crap, that's true example of this. Have you noticed that there's not very many small, what you'd almost kind of call mom and pop pediatrician or family doctor's offices, or even if your community is like ours, even orthopedists, PTs, OTs, even autism centers are being bought up by massive corporate medical hospital enterprises. The reason that they're buying up even your local providers, your local pediatricians, is because then that doctor works for that system. And you guys, that system has spreadsheets and stats and business data behind it. And that is the business of illness. That is the business of disease. And that is the business of sickness. If the conventional medical system were to promote actual natural health, were to address the root cause, were to work in an empowering, partnering way to get your family better, you wouldn't need their products. Because their injections, let me go in order, their visits, their testing and analysis, then their injections and their medications are all of their profits. And so I have a different kind of wiring to me. I have a different, I see things in a different order. I'm definitely much more of a person or a voice in this space that is always glasses half full, and I tend to go to the positive first. But I chose to do this one. Coming out of the gates with 2025, I chose to give you my list and then go deep into number one with the reasons behind it. I chose to kind of just really poke the bear with this one because when that mom asked me this question, when I think about what I can really do, what I can really share with you to really shift your family's health and change the health of your future generations for millions of families, we actually have to change who we call first. We have to change who we trust first. We have to just change the order. We don't get rid of them. We don't not need them. We just want to massively, entirely lessen our dependence on the medical system, on medication, on fear and anxiety. And if we call them first, if we still go to them first, if we still run everything through that medical filter first, that fear, that anxiety, that scare care, those medication recommendations, they're just going to still get a little stuck or a lot stuck for your family. And so I wanted to go deep on this one because when you make a different call, when you call your nervous system focused pediatric and family chiropractor first, you're going to get an entirely holistic, whole body nervous system approach. The nervous system controls everything. So when you're looking to either promote and build health, so you're a wellness patient, or you're going through an acute illness, or you're going through a chronic illness and looking to heal and recover for your kiddos and for your family, you want to approach everything. You want to approach the entirety of neurobiology. And that's where chiropractors, by being specialists, advanced experts at a level that no one else at all, even close in healthcare is, when you have a doctor on your team who you call first, trust first, and get checked by first, you get evaluated for the nervous system. The nervous system controls the gut. The nervous system controls the immune system. The nervous system controls our social, emotional, behavioral, cognitive focus, concentration, brain fog. You get rid of it by getting your nervous system better. Concentration issues, lack of energy issues, you get rid of it by getting your nervous system better. Your kiddo can't sleep, get their nervous system better. Your kiddo's constipated and digestion's a mess despite 87 diet changes, detoxes, and supplements, get their nervous system better. So you want a doctor to be the most trusted kind of cornerstone piece of your team, who is the doctor whose expertise is the most expansive and the most granular detailed and taps into every other system. And that would be a nervous system focused and holistic approach. You want a doctor who truly does listen, who really is obsessed with you about finding the root cause, works in partnership with you, and continually provides education, hope, explanations, answers, resources, workshops, podcasts, articles, videos. Our obsession with our patients, whether they've been with me for 17 years or 17 days, is to not just adjust them to get their kiddos and their family's nervous system better, but we really value our time in conversation. We really value the communications. I train my doctors on what's called table talk. You'd be blown away if you're in there. No, we're fun. We'll crack a dad joke or two, but what are we going to, you only have so much time with your patients. We don't spend time talking about the weather or talking about, the Chicago Bears. When you're there with us, we're there to educate. We're there to empower. We're there to answer your questions. And the final thing I would say to just really, and I could actually do a 4-hour podcast just about this one shift. You got to change the doctor you trust first. You got to change the doctor you call first. You got to change the doctor you see first to get a different outcome with health, with well-being, with joy for your family. But the other thing that we've all intentionally done inside family chiropractic offices, inside PX Docs offices as well, is we've just built a community. We've just built a tribe of like-minded, holistic, nervous system focused, root cause, we got this, empowered families. We want to raise up a generation of empowered kids. We want to raise up a generation of kids who know that God designed them to be healthy, not sick. Their genetics are not programmed for ADHD and anxiety and asthma. Their genetics are programmed for a kick ass. If we're going to go with the A conditions, let's go kick ass, ASS life, okay? Our kids are designed to be vibrant. Our kids are designed to get over illnesses on their own. Our kids are designed to build resilience and adaptability as they go along and get stronger and get tougher. And that starts with understanding. That starts with philosophy and perspective. So if our kids are told to trust medical doctors with their health, they will take a victim mentality. Because the medical system needs us to feel like we're victims to our genetics. There's nothing we can do. Our lifestyle and our environment doesn't matter, and we're dependent upon them and their medications and their interventions for life. That's the entire philosophy that system. They literally changed medical education in the 20s and 30s. You can look it up. Google the Flexner Report. Geez, I'm really going deep on this one. But Google that. And you can find from the Rockefellers to this dude named Flexner in the 20s and 30s to how they bought and paid their way into medical education, eradicated anything that had to do with finding root cause and actually empowering patients. And then when the genetic theory came around, which is a whole bunch of BS, actually the other thing I want you to Google is epigenetics. Actually, don't Google it. Go to our website, pxdocs.com, and check out an article about epigenetics. I'm actually going to mention the next article with my step number 2. And I got to move on from this one. But this one, I knew I would take 20, if not even 30 minutes to really go deep into explaining and giving you justification, if you will, to my advice and strategy number 1 in New Year's resolutions that will radically transform your family's health. It has everything to do with which doctor you do or do not call first, trust first, and see the most. You get one, you get a doctor who's an expert in fear and anxiety and works in a system that is all based upon profits and medications for sickness and illness. You're going to get more of that outcome. They're the source of that, okay? Now, the other side gives you a different outcome. And if you're looking for a different outcome, you need a different doctor. All right. Number 2. Nobody is going to believe what I'm about to say, but especially because I went so long and so detailed into number 1, I am actually going to go brief into number 2. Number 2 on my list to radically transform your family's health with these 3 resolutions next year is really get rid of all, A-L-L, bolded, capitalize on that word, chemicals and toxins in your family's life and lifestyle. This isn't easy, but I want you to know that I spent the last 6 weeks working with our team. My whole team of writers, our whole team, everybody, our team of writers, our podcast producers, our providers, our CAs in the office, we all live this lifestyle, you guys. We've all had our own stories. I'd say the vast majority of us, if not all of us, we grew up medical. We grew up dependent upon the pediatrician. We grew up just like you. We had to make this transformation just like you did. And then you find out about the nervous system and chiropractic, and you're like, give me more of that. You find out, you get exposed about the medical system, and you're like, give me less of that. Then you find out about toxins and seed oils and Roundup and plastics, and the list goes on. And it is simultaneously so exciting because you're like, this explains so much. My kids are exposed to all this crap and it does all these things to their bodies. No wonder we have so much sickness. No wonder we have so much ADHD. No wonder we have so much autism. No wonder we have so much asthma and allergies and autoimmune issues. But it's also exhausting and overwhelming. And while we want to radically transform our families' lives, once you open the hood and you start to learn about toxins and you start to learn about chemicals in our environment, you learn one thing: they're freaking everywhere. So I spent the last 6 weeks with I love this stuff. I've radically shifted our whole family. Like, we do not eat. I don't have a diet. We're not, I would never say to anybody, our family's carnivore. Our family's paleo. There was a few years where we were paleo, and then we had a few more kids, and then we just couldn't keep up with that perfection anymore. Just being honest. But I'll tell you one thing our family's obsessed with. My kids and chemicals don't mix. And I always say it to this way. You can really summarize this one in this way, okay? Kids and chemicals don't mix. Chemicals should not be, and I don't love the word should not, but chemicals and kids' nervous systems, kids' immune systems, kids' guts, chemicals are toxic and nasty. The little ones, the big ones, they're everywhere. So kids should not have chemicals inhaled into their system. So we got to check household, airway, everything else. Injected, yep, that one. Or ingested, which would be food and things that go into our body. And so honestly, to teach you everything about number 2 and to go into detail like I did with number 1, we would need 27 4-hour podcast episodes because there's pesticides, there's plastics, there's microplastics, there's seed oils, there's heavy metals, there's flame retardants. So we spent the last 6 weeks writing a very in-depth article on our website, pxtalks.com. I will have the team put it in the show notes of this one. I know, I often am listening to a podcast and I'm like, I'm loving what I'm learning and I want the show notes, but I'm working out or I'm driving while I'm doing it. And I will honestly say to you, 9 times out of 10 that I want to go to a podcast, click on the show notes and get something in my hands that they talked about on the podcast, I don't do it. I'm bringing that up because I want 10 out of 10 of you this time from this episode more so than ever before to go to the website, go to the show notes. You can also go to the website and find it easy. You could go to pxtalks.com and just put in the search bar there, environmental toxins or toxic load theory or perfect storm, and it'll get you to this article. The reason I'm really, really pushing this article is the way we wrote it is very PX doxy, meaning it's in depth. It's in detail and it's ridiculously full throttle in terms of what you need to learn. But we also wrote it to be practical. We also wrote it to be strategic. We also wrote in steps and we connected that article to another one of our favorite organizations, Documenting Hope, and Beth Lambert and their article about the toxic load theory. You'll see it's very much embedded into the article that I wrote with my team as well. And I just want you to go there for number 2. I want you to, boy, I'm really being pushy with this call to action on this. Go to the article, print off the article. Pretend like you're back in school and somebody actually, imagine if in health class, they'd have taught us anything about health, right? They would have taught us first, God designed us to be healthy. The nervous system is the boss. Take care of that sucker first. Second, somewhere in there, maybe not second, but there definitely should have been an entire chapter, an entire curriculum about how nasty toxins are and how much they destroy our health. And there should have been strategies behind it. So if you want an in-depth article and you want a set of notes that actually makes this really practical, not overwhelming, and gives you a plan of attack that you can take one step at a time, it's that article. Now, before I move on to number 3, let me tell you how my family looks at it the most. We really, really, really choose where we eat and where we purchase things from, okay? And the most wonderful thing that you can do is just plan ahead. Really, really plan ahead and say, okay, if we're going to be short on time, what are the places that have food that isn't laced with chemicals? If we're going to go to a restaurant, what are the restaurants that actually, cook with olive oil and coconut oil and might have gluten-free and chemical-free options? So the number one thing we've done for our family is kind of slow down to speed up. And we really do our research on where we're going to eat, where we're not, what products we're going to use for soaps and cleaners and detergents and foods and snacks and everything else, what we're going to cook with and what we're not going to cook with. And that's actually the bow I want to put on number 2. I want you to actually get excited because when you learn about toxins and chemicals and how much they're in all of our freaking snacks and our foods and our oils and our cleaners, and you get rid of them, I actually want you to get excited about what's going to go in their place. See, that's actually the lesson throughout this whole episode. When you put the pediatrician and the medical system as the last call, you put exactly what you want to build health, and get more good out of first. See, the cool thing about moving away from the medical system, moving away from toxins, is you have to replace it with something. Something needs to take its place. You need some doctor on your team to help your family be healthy and be able to ask the questions to and get advice from and get some care for the nervous system and recommendations to spark healing and promote healing. And when it comes to cleaning up diet and lifestyle and everything else within this toxin conversation, what's so exciting is the stuff you replace it with is the stuff God designed to go into our kid's body. It's natural, wholesome, organic food. In fact, isn't it kind of dumb that we have to call it organic food? It should just be called food the way God designed it. And then the rest of the grocery store should have a big old sign that says toxic-laced chemical frankenfoods over here. It's such BS that they have to label the organic section organic and the rest of the crap doesn't get a label. Read those labels. If y'all can't pronounce it, don't put it. I'm a molecular biology undergrad. Actually, I despised chemistry. Shout out to Karen and my homies over in Scotland. Sorry, buddy. Still haven't got there. But here's probably why I didn't like chemistry, because I can't even pronounce the words. But I was in chemistry and things react and you don't want them reacting in your kids' bodies. So really, number 2, get rid of all toxins. And number 3 is the 4th T. In chiropractic, we've always talked about the 3 T's: traumas, toxins, thoughts. So physical trauma, chemical and toxic trauma with the middle one, and then emotional trauma with number 3. There's a 4th T that is freaking everywhere in our family's lives these days. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes on it to close number 3. I'm going to give you real practical strategies that have been hard. Be honest. They're hard for my family, but we've made them easier because we've kind of figured out this cheat code to number 3. And I have teenagers and tweens. So trust me, the 4th T is technology. The 4th T is freaking iPhones. And the 4th T is freaking Netflix and iPads and laptops. And we're all addicted to it. And let's just call a spade a spade. If we're addicted to it, our kids are addicted to it. So it would be pretty easy for me on this New Year's resolutions to radically transform your family to say, get unplugged, lessen your screen time. But I know how real life family works. I'm literally making this after a week of Christmas break already for my kiddos. I can't just tell them, hey, turn it off, and that's it. What are you going to fill that void with? What are you going to fill that gap with? So just like we got done talking about, the real shift in this conversation is when you get less of or entirely get rid of bad stuff, you have an opportunity to replace it with good stuff. So what our family has found, the number one way, both my wife and I, we work, right? Our lives are on Slack and Asana, freaking project management software, bane of my existence, and Google Drive and emails. And I make podcasts. I'm on content. I have to be connected to the internet, right? To serve families and fulfill my mission. I love it. I'm not against social media. We use it for good. I'm not against ChatGPT and AI for my kids. They're growing up in that generation. If they can get more done by mastering that tool, I want them using it. So I'm not an all-out friggin' anarchist against technology and against social media. Our kids get a phone at 14. They don't get social media until 16. And even then, it's very limited on phone time, screen time, how many times, which apps they can have, which ones they can't, how long. So we have protective measures in place. But the thing I can tell you that made the biggest difference in our family to be able to unplug from the freaking matrix is we had to fill the gap. So what we do is we go out and we go for walks together and the phones aren't allowed. When we eat dinner, the phones are not allowed in the kitchen. When we go to a restaurant to have dinner, the phones are not allowed at the table. When we go out on vacation, like we're literally about to take off on a really rad New Year's vacation, we filled our schedule with activities. We're going to go on bike rides. We're going to go on boat rides. We're going to go on tours. We're going to go do things. My oldest kiddo, I'm even put this one on my list. Addison loves escape rooms. I don't know about y'all, but escape rooms for me, I'm just like, I don't even think I'm claustrophobic per se. It's just so corny. But you know what? Every time I kind of begrudgingly go along for that, I get excited now because I'm like, awesome. 2 hours. Well, we're probably supposed to get out of that quicker, but you know what? We suck at escape rooms. And, because I'm just very impatient. I just kind of want to punch a hole in the wall and get out of there. But the truth is, that's 2 hours without our phones. That's 2 hours together. We go volunteer. We'll volunteer at church or we'll volunteer in our community together. We'll go play pickleball. We'll go play basketball. We'll go do something. We'll go play volleyball, right? We'll go bowling. You really want to take it to extreme? Move to a farm where you have more farm work, more yard work, more animals to take care of. There's no phones while you're shoveling crap and cleaning out the donkey pen, all right? They don't like donkeys. They'll kick it right out of your hand. They don't like phones, what I meant to say. I'm done now with number 3, but I want you to know with number 3, there's a strategy within the strategy. What I found was a huge struggle for us is we were like, hey, let's turn off the phones. Let's all get unplugged. And then what? Sit around and twiddle our thumbs and, arm wrestle? So you got to fill that time. So be very active with your family. I know we all get tired. We're exhausted from all the different things we do. And sometimes you just want to Netflix and chill. But then what happens? You're staring at a TV, people pull out their phones. You're not connected as a family. You're not active. You're still connected to the internet instead of connected to each other. And so we very much have really done everything we can to make sure if we want our teens and we want ourselves off of devices, we have to have a schedule. We have to have activities, going out to dinner with my father-in-law and mother-in-law, going out to dinner with family. We very much fill it with activities that don't involve phones and can't involve phones. And I think it's just a really, really, really important strategy for 2025 and everyone going forward. All right, everybody, per usual, I don't just like to give you a list and be like, do this, do this, do that. And it's just a 30,000 foot view with no explanations, no kind of stories to bring it home. I live this life. It's tough. You know, we've actually, number one for us has become secondhand. Like, we know who to call and who to trust. We have medical doctors. We have an incredible medical practice on our team. We know if you know, everything else natural and drug-free first doesn't get the job done, we know who to call. We know where the urgent care is. I'm not against the medical system. I just use it for crisis and emergency intervention only. And I use everything else for everything else. And number two, it's been years that we've been working on getting rid of toxins, changing up our foods. I was going to make a Trader Joe. It's in my notes, but I was going to make a Trader Joe joke. Okay, I'm going to make a Trader Joe joke. You will see this. The natural health world has caught fire in the food system, and most businesses are in it for a profit. So they'll say one thing, but have another. So sorry, Trader Joe's, to throw you under the bus, but 98% of stuff in there is not really clean. Okay. It definitely has different kinds of chemicals and seed oils and everything else into it. So just be really conscious of that. Give yourself grace. Okay. Choose maybe one spot. You'll see that in the article that I talked about. Choose one section. If you want to start with your foods, go with that first and work on that. If you want to start with your cleaners, you know, the detergents you use to clean dishes, and that's, if you want to start with your house, clean out the vents, check for mold and do those sort of things. It's all within kind of these different categories. Don't feel like you have to attack them all at once and be perfect tomorrow. I actually feel like, this is kind of funny, I'm going to say it. I feel like there's too much judgment in the natural health world these days. Quite a bit of, maybe it's intentional, maybe it isn't, almost kind of like gaslighting. And there's a funny internal. I'm 43, everyone, with teens and then a young doctor team. So I still don't know that I know what the heck gaslighting means. And I'm just a pretty direct person. So if I have a criticism of someone or something, I'll just say it. I don't usually dance. I don't try and get clever or cute with it. Maybe I do. I just almost swore there, didn't I? I don't even know exactly what gaslighting is to the T. And every time I think I have it down and then I give my team an example, I'm like, oh, was that gaslighting? Did I just get gaslit? And then they're like, no, that's not what that was. And then, so anyways, what am I saying with this in closing of this one? Take a deep breath, y'all. I think you're doing freaking awesome. If you've made one move, you're doing amazing things. If you've made 1,000 moves and you feel like there's 1,000 more, one bite of the organic coconut oil made cookie at a time, okay? Like, you got this. You're doing amazing. God designed us to build up health from within. The original tagline of our practice was building health from within. And I should probably add a little, 2 more words to that. Build health from within, meaning naturally, innately. Let's tap into the resources of health and wellness that God put in our kids and put in our families. And over time, it's a process. It's a journey. Every one of us, if I were to go around and poll all of you and say, hey, do you want to be more healthy, the same healthy, or less healthy in 2025, you and your family, it's 100%. We're going with more. So the pursuit of more health, the pursuit of more wellness, the pursuit of more education, understanding, you can take it with 2 different perspectives. You can look at it like, it's overwhelming. I'm not doing enough. And moms, I feel like you do that to yourselves a lot. I know I do too, as a dude and a dad. Like, I should do this. I should do that. I should do this. This family does that or that family does that. Can you just right now with me as we kick off this new year, take a deep breath and realize you've come a long freaking ways. You're doing freaking amazing. And whatever the next steps and next moves for you are, awesome. Take them in process. Take them in flow and know that they're going to do good things, and then more good things will come from them, and then you'll learn more good things after that so you can go forward. But I definitely think right now, one of the side effects of this massive, which I am the biggest advocate and fan of ever, this natural health movement away from medicine and away towards natural lifestyle and living, I find sometimes the side effect is it almost causes anxiety. It causes mental health challenges because we're trying to be perfect. We're trying to be just so dialed in. And perfection is certainly not attainable at all. Promise you 1 or 2 of the meals or whatever the amount is that we'll have on vacation yesterday, it's going to be some stuff in there, right? And my kids will be fine. They're resilient, they're adaptable, because 80 to 90% of the time, we are dialed in. So that 10 to 20% of the time, we've got the slack, we've got the wiggle room. So does your family, all right? So maybe that should have been my step 0 to radically transform your health. Take a deep breath, go into it with as much of a positive, forward-looking, not stress and anxiety-inducing attitude as you possibly can. And I think you'll not only get more out of it, but you won't have the side effect of some of that stress and anxiety and feeling overwhelmed and judged while you do it. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. Do you have a question that you would like to submit? Either send it to support@pxdocs.com with the subject Ask Dr. Tony, or head on over to our socials @PXDocs, where you can submit your question in our stories every single week. Every kid counts and every family counts, so let's leave no questions left unanswered. If you loved this episode and you want to help us reach more kids, we would so appreciate if you left a review and a rating on your favorite platform. God bless, be well. We'll see you on the next one.